Assalamualaikum and good evening to madam and my fellow friends. Before we start the seminar, let me introduce you with my group members. So this group consists of 6 members who are me myself, Nadila, Anis, Alia, Farhana, Amira and Nadia. So today we like to talk about one of the supply chain management, which is material requirement planning. So keep watching and don't go anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabila. Hi, I'm Alia. So let us proceed with the background and history of MRP. So first, let me explain to you guys the background of MRP. Material Requirement Planning was the earliest of the integrated information technology (IT) system that was aimed to improve productivity for business by using computers and software technology. At the beginning, they used mainframe computers to extrapolate information from a bill of material for a specific finished product and then converted it into a production and purchasing plan. Soon after that, MRP system expanded to include information feedback loop so that production managers could change and update the system input as needed. And then the manufacturing resources planning, so-called as MRP2, was developed regarding the marketing, finance, accounting, engineering, and human resources aspect into the planning process. This expansion concept of MRP2 is related to the ERP, Enterprise Resources Planning. As data analysis and technology became more sophisticated, more comprehensive systems were developed to integrate MRP with other aspects of the manufacturing process. So, how about the history of MRP? Did you guys know that during the early part of the 20th century, material and planning control systems started using mathematics to calculate manufacturing lot sizes? In 1913, Fort W. Harris introduced the EOQ model, Economic Order Quantity Model, and it is still studied until today for inventory management. So in 1964, Joseph Olike developed MRP while working for IBM to perform computerized supply planning. Dr. Olike was on a mission to educate senior executive customers to use the computer technology to manage their inventory and control processes. So in 1967, at IBM, Dr. Olike worked with Oliver White, who ended up co-authoring a book with George Russell titled Production and Inventory Control regarding the principle and techniques. The book had influenced consumers was almost immediate, where Black and Decker implemented MRP right away. In 1975, these three professionals, Olike, White, and Plossel, began the movement by publishing Dr. Olike's book, Material Requirement Planning, and so nearly 700 companies adopted MRP. By 1981, about 8,000 companies had adopted MRP. The American Production Inventory Control Society, so-called as APICS, undertook a huge campaign called the MRP Crusade, which managed by those three professionals to tout the benefits of MRP system and make it standard for manufacturing planning in America. In 1983, Oliver White took MRP a step further and developed manufacturing resource planning (MRP2), also known as material planning, which include additional data such as employee and finance information. The most recent development for MRP came in 2011 when a new book was published by Joseph Olike's original publishing company, McGraw-Hill, on the updated version of Olike's work, called the third edition of Olike's Material Requirement Planning. This edition introduced the demand-driven MRP, so-called as DDMRP, with the 5 components, including strategic inventory positioning, buffer profiles, level, timing and adjustment, demand-driven planning, and highly visible and collaborative execution. So that's all from me. Next, I will pass this seminar to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Alia. That's a good explanation. Now, I will continue with the definition of MRP. So, what is actually MRP? MRP is a method of calculating number of raw materials that are needed for productions. One of the main goals of MRP is to ensure that raw materials are available to the end of the productions. MRP is one of the manufacturing software systems that are designed to increase productivity of businesses with the help of technology. Thank you. And next, Alia will further discuss on the objective of MRP.
Thank you, Farhana. Hi, I'm back. So there are three primary objectives that the software seeks to provide. So what is it? The first one is to ensure the raw materials are readily available for the production and products are readily available for delivery to customer. The second objective is to sustain the lowest raw material and finished product level in store. The third objective is to organize the manufacturing, delivery schedules, and purchasing activities. Thank you. Next, I'll pass to Farhana.
Thank you, Alia, for the objective of MRP. Now, how MRP works. MRP systems are designed to answer three main questions. The first question is what is needed. MRP is about knowing the raw materials needed to produce the final product within the established schedule. In other words, MRP is basically a system used to identify the materials and items needed to manufacture a particular product. The second question is how much is needed. MRP systems helps manufacturers record inventory needs while balancing supply and also demand. And the third question is when is it needed. MRP is primarily performed using a software system to ensure that the right inventory is available in the production process exactly when it's needed at the lowest possible cost. This makes MRP more efficient, flexible, and also profitable. Thank you, and next Amira will further explain the differences between MRP and ERP.
My name is Amira and I will explain MRP versus ERP. The most significant differences between MRP and ERP is the system. MRP is a standalone software that only handles manufacturing, while ERP system can easily integrate with other software modules. Second is the users. MRP has a limited user base because it caters to a single industry. Manufacturing operations are the only one who use an MRP system. Because is common across numerous businesses and manage multiple departments, it might have an indefinite number of users. Next is the cost. One important distinction between MRP and ERP system is that ERP systems are more expensive in compared to MRP. Next, I will pass to Anis to explain more about main features of MRP.
Thank you, Amira. Previously, we have learned about the introduction MRP and it's different from ERP. So, what is the main features of MRP? Basically, there are three main features of MRP system. First is the master production schedule. A master production schedule is a statement of the planning, including order forecast and capacity. Developed using both internal forecast and external order, it states the quantity of each product that will be manufactured and the time frame in which they will be needed. An MRP system cannot tell in advance if a schedule is not feasible, so managers may have to run several possibilities through the system before they find one that is work. Second is the bill of material. The bill of material is a listing of all the raw materials, component parts, sub-assemblies, and assemblies required to produce one unit of a specific finished product. Each different product made by a given manufacturer will have its own separate BOM. MRP uses the BOM to determine the quantity of each component that is needed to produce a certain number of each product. The last one is the inventory status file. Inventory status file is a stock record that allows gross requirement to be adjusted to net requirement. It is used to track information on the status of each item by time period. Besides gross requirement, it also includes other details for each item as well, like the supplier, the lead time, and lot size. Next, I'll pass to Nabila for the next presentation.
Thank you, Anis. So, talking about features, I would like to talk about what features that business should consider when choosing a MRP software. First, business should consider with flexible requirement. This is because business practice diverse from each other, so it should be user friendly, and the more flexible it can be, the better. So the second one is its software support. Business should make sure it's compatible with the business, user-friendly, and may be up to date with the latest trend. For example, the trend of cloud-based software. Next, it can integrate with multiple environments. So to make sure it can integrate with entire workflow or to integrate it with e-commerce platform like Shopee or accounting software. And lastly, workflow support. So the MRP can support or covers the entire business workflow. Next, what types of data that must be considered? Displayed on the screen now are among the examples of data that must be considered. So we have claim data, inventory records, shelf life, and also an item. Next, I will pass to the next person.
Thank you, Nabila, for the good explanation. Now, I will proceed to the step and process of MRP. MRP are broken down into four major steps. The first step is identifying requirements to meet demand. The first step of the MRP process is identifying customer demand and the requirements needed to meet the demand, which starts with putting customer orders and sales forecast. The second step is checking inventory and allocating resources. Utilizing the MRP to check demand against inventory and allocating resources accordingly, the company can see items they have in stock. This is important if the company has inventory across several locations. The third step is scheduling production. Using the master production schedule, the system determines how much time and labor are required to complete each of the product, so that the production can avoid delay. The fourth step is identifying issues and making recommendations. Finally, because MRP links raw materials to work orders and customer orders, it can automatically alert production department when items are delayed and make recommendations for existing orders. Thank you. And next, Nabila will further explain about the advantages and disadvantages of MRP.
Alright, thank you. So you guys must be wondering what is the advantages and disadvantages in implementing the system, right? For advantages, in the first place, it improves internal communication as it acts as the business communication center that integrates all the departments into one single data field, which brings each department in responding at the right time. Additionally, it helps in better material planning. It will keep track with the inventory movement and can accurately estimate material requirement. Thirdly, it eliminates clerical tasks and risks. Works can be more efficient and it saves time, energy, as well as it can eliminate the human errors. Next, there's no perfect things in the world. Therefore, this slide will tell you the other side of it, which is disadvantages. High cost and technical complexity in implementation will always be the greatest challenge in implementing the system. Businesses need to invest a lot of money in developing, research, testing, training staffs, and also the complexity took a lot of time to realize a system that can act accordingly. In addition, there is a heavy reliance on input data accuracy. If input information is not correct, then output for material planning will also be incorrect. It required business to train and educate their personnel so the data being keyed in is correct and reflect the accurate data to be relied by the other departments. The last one is inflexible system, not compatible for specific business. The existing system in the market may not compatible to meet the needs and need to be modified according to the ordinary costs of the business.
So, how does MRP benefit a business? The benefit of MRP include first, inventory level. MRP allows industrial organizations to properly manage their inventory level and decrease expenses as inventory related costs are one of the highest in the industry. Next is purchasing planning. This section of software deals with how much inventory is required to meet demand. You will know exactly how much material you need to store if you plan your material and inventory based on your actual demand. Next is production planning. MRP is used to guarantee that enough resources are produced or acquired based on the current inventory level. In the event of an inventory shortfall, production manager can shift production to items that have sufficient resources on hand to begin with. Next is work scheduling. MRP will generate production order if there is insufficient inventory for manufactured material and component. Managers can utilize this data to plan labor to satisfy the needs of overall process without overstaffing the line. Next is customer service improve. MRP will assist manufacturing facilities increase their customer satisfaction by lowering expenses associated with holding excess inventory and ensuring that commodities are available on time for production. And last but not least, MRP systems are fully automated and all team members have real-time access to the most up-to-date data by reducing the time spent updating each other on production changes. So the question is MRP worth it? The answer is yes. MRP is particularly well suited for manufacturing environment where demand for many materials and components is dependent on the demands of the item that face external demand. Demand for finished good is unrelated. In contrast, demand for component used for manufacturer end item depend on the demands for the end item. The distinction between independent and dependent demands are essential when classifying inventory item and developing system to manage item within each demand classification. MRP systems are created to help with dependent demand item. Next, Nadia will explain further about the importance of MRP.
Thank you, Amira. Now I will explain on the importance of MRP. First, it improves the efficiency, flexibility, and profitability of manufacturing operations. MRP, which is done primarily through specialized software, helps ensure that the right inventory is available for the production process exactly when it is needed and the lowest possible cost. It can make factory workers more productive, improve product quality, and minimize material and labor costs. Next, MRP also makes sure the accurate production planning and scheduling processes. The production manager gets a fair insight into the availability of materials and the time taken for manufacturing operations that include assembly, testing of products, packaging, and etc. Lastly, it also ensure accurate material planning and purchasing. MRP ensures that businesses can meet regulatory demand and maintain quality benchmarks by giving full visibility into manufacturing processes. Product series can be tracked and also can manage quality levels, expiry dates of materials used, and achieve transparency in overall processes and standards. Next, I will pass to Nabila.
Thank you, Nadia. Next, I bet everyone wants to know if MRP different depending on type of operations and businesses. The answer is yes. It differs depending on type of operations and businesses, as different businesses have different end items, practice different unique processes, have different size of resources, meet different requirements, have different structure, and etc. etc. For example, we have company Samsung Electronic, who is in the medical devices and equipment industry, and also Rolls-Royce, which in the aerospace and defense industry. Both have different operations and from different industry, but both applying or implement the MRP system.
Thank you, Nabila. Now I will tell you the types of business that suit in applying this MRP. Originally, MRP started from and typically used in the manufacturing and fabrication industries. However, these industries are not the only businesses that relies on a stable supply and demand balance. Implementing these techniques can greatly help the organization, whether it is a bakery or technology corporation. MRP is applicable to practically any business, including the service industry, because it turns the master production schedule into a detailed schedule so that raw materials and components may be purchased. So I would say that MRP suits and focuses on two universal business concerns, which are customers and resources. This is because MRP evaluates all business activities in terms of consumer requests and manages all business resources using its own logic and data processing. Thank you, and I will pass to the next presenter, Anis.
Thank you, Nadia. Even though MRP is suitable for all business, but there are still some issues in implementing MRP. First issue is the inadequate employee training and involvement. If the employee are not trained properly, They will not be able to understand the system and hence cannot use it properly. In order to derive maximum benefit from an MRP system, employees should be made aware of all the functionalities provided by the system. Second issue is the use of inaccurate or obsolete data. An MRP system cannot yield good result if the data is either inappropriate or obsolete. In other words, the system will not yield the desired result if the BOM records are not updated regularly. To improve the accuracy of the system, each inventory item should be assigned with a unique item code so that it can be identified easily and complexities in data maintenance is reduced. Last but not least is the inappropriate product environment issue. The success of an MRP system usually depends on product environment. The system is useful only when an organization needs to purchase many items, a majority of which are components and parts. The demand patterns of these items should be dependent in nature and irregular in timing. Moreover, the lead time for purchase of these items should be consistent. Next, Nabila will continue the presentation.
Thank you, Anis. We will continue with how MRP actually helps the management in handling the supplier. Firstly, it conducts analysis of the supplier market. Through this, management teams can understand what is they may be facing. In addition, MRP helps management in supervise suppliers' performance and identify areas for improvement. Lastly, technology efficiency. Technology efficiency provides supplier with a direct and real-time data. Therefore, it can save management time and energy in providing the data and also will increase the supplier effectiveness. Okay, next I will pass you to the next presenter.
Thank you, Nabila. Now I will talk about the 3 input files of MRP. There are 3 input files of MRP. First, Master Production Schedule. MPS mainly depicts the detailed delivery schedule of the end products. However, orders for replacement components can also be included in it to make it more comprehensive. Second, Bills of Materials BOM file. BOM represents the product structure. It encompasses information about all subcomponents needed, their quantity, and the sequence of build-up in the end product. Information about the work centers performing build-up operations is also included in it. Lastly, Inventory Status File. Inventory Status File keeps an up-to-date record of each item in the inventory. Information such as item identification number, quantity on hand, safety stock level, quantity already allocated, and the procurement lead time of each item is recorded in this file. Thank you, and Amira will present on the next point.
Thank you, Nadia. And now I will explain how management handle its inventory for MRP output. First is planned order release. This is the order quantity of an item that is planned to be ordered in the planned time period. For this order, that will ensure that the item is received when needed. Planned order release is determined by offsetting the planned order receipt by the procurement lead time of the item. Planned order release includes inventory forecast, purchase commitment report, stock out incidents, and etc. Next is order rescheduling. This highlights the need for any expediting, de-expediting, and cancellation of open order in case of unexpected situation. Lastly is planned order receipt. This is the order quantity of an item that is planned to be ordered so that it is received at the beginning of the period or under consideration to meet the net requirement of that period. This order has not yet been placed and will be placed in the future. I will pass to Anis to explain more about MRP limitation.
Thank you, Amira. As we all know, all system has its own limitation, including MRP system. First limitation is on the length of MRP planning horizon over which optimal order schedules can be found. Usefulness in practical situation is questionable since large number of alternative schedules will need to be considered, and in addition, optimal short-term schedules will not necessarily result in optimization of inventory over the long term. MRP system also have limited use in the manufacturing industry. owing to the complexity of the procedures required to generate optimal or near optimal schedules. These have often been found to be difficult for operating personnel within manufacturing organizations to understand. Last but not least, the limitation of MRP system is on lot sizing technique. Existing method treat the lot sizing problem as a single stage process, but MRP is a multiple stage process, and hence any lot sizing technique must consider all items whose demand is related both horizontally and vertically throughout the bill of material BOM structures. Next, I will pass to Alia for the next presentation.
Thank you, Anis. As we heard from Anis' explanation earlier, MRP might be challenging to implement. However, it is clearly worth the time, effort, and financial investment. Whether you are with a large organization or a small business owner, it is important that you figure out how to best implement MRP. So I'm going to give you the recommendation on how to use MRP successfully. So the first recommendation is to review MRP report with everyone. MRP should be dispersed so that everyone could understand and can help to solve problems that arise during the MRP process. And that should come from the department responsibility, not from one person's responsibility. The second recommendation that I would recommend is the organization should stay up to date. Why I say this? Because inaccurate dates on open sales order, open purchase order, or production can actually result to an excessive order or misspend of money. So of course the organization don't want this to happen, right? So it is important that the organization should stay up to date. The third recommendation is the MRP should have accurate lead time. The business should know how long it takes to get the materials and how to keep an accurate sales orders date so that there's no delay on the order. The fourth recommendation is to audit your inventory business. The business also should have an accurate count of on-hand inventory, especially when setting up a new business or new system. Kindly remember that bad data in will give you bad data out. The fifth recommendation that I would recommend is to take into account for loss factor. Every business will have some loss through the process of making their products, right? So without putting in a loss factor, the business will actually might have constantly have a short of raw materials. So it is important that the business should take into account for a loss factor to avoid any bad decision in the process throughout the process. So next, I'm going to give this presentation or this seminar to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Alia. Lastly, I will explain on the case study. There are many case studies about MRP. One of them is study of material requirement planning processes and its analysis and implementation, which is a case study of automobile industry by Rahul Hencha and Dr. Devendra S. Verma. This paper presents impact of lot sizes on MRP, calculation of lot sizes of items, percentage of decreasing lot sizes and collection plan, receipt analysis and without collection plan material inward analysis, and reduction in inventory level as well as inventory costs, transportation costs, storage costs by lower lot sizes, collection plan, receipts plans, coverage plan, and reduces the collection plan material inward in order to increase overall profit of the organization, greater effectiveness in the production process, and better information accuracy. The conclusion they got is minimum lot sizes of all items based on economic order quantity, lead time, packaging standard, effective consumption of material and material receiving. Safety stock reduces the inventory cost, transportation cost, packaging cost, and etc. as well as to increase the overall profit of the company. It can be concluded from the results that the food quality provided by the system is good enough to attract most of the students of the area, and rates of the food items are also cheaper than other nearby food services. That's all from us about the material requirement planning. We appreciate your keen interest in this seminar, which has taken our team days to prepare for. You folks are simply the best. If there's any questions, you may feel free to ask. Thank you.